The lights in the lower deck of orbital station Thal 9 flickered again. Yuna pressed her small daughter closer to her chest, trying to keep Hana warm. The refugee quarter smelled like too many bodies in too small a space. Dozens of species crowded together, all running from the same war that had destroyed their homes. Yuna looked down at Hana and felt her heart break a little more. The small larva's carapace, which should have been bright and colorful, looked dull and gray. The edges were cracking. Hana barely moved anymore. She just lay still in Yuna's arms, her tiny antennae drooping. 3 days. The medical drone had been clear about that. 3 days before the damage to Hana's body could not be fixed. 3 days before Yuna would lose the only family she had left. The problem was simple but impossible to solve. Velothi children needed special nutrients to grow. These nutrients came from crystals that only grew on their homeworld. But their homeworld was now a battlefield. The war had turned their beautiful planet into a place of death and fire. The station gave them food. Plain food that kept them alive but did not have what Hana needed. Yuna had tried everything. She had filled out forms in languages she barely understood. She had waited in lines that stretched for hours. She had begged aid workers who looked at her with tired, sorry eyes and said they had nothing to give. She had gone to the black market in the old cargo bay. The prices there made her sick. 1 vial of the nutrients Hana needed cost more than Yuna could earn in a year. She had nothing to sell. No jewelry, no technology, no valuable skills that anyone wanted to pay for. All she had was herself. Yuna had heard the other refugees talking. Late at night, when they thought no one was listening, they spoke in whispers about the human quarter. About the wealthy traders who lived there. About how some of them paid for company. For an experience with someone different, someone exotic. The idea made Yuna's skin crawl. Her people did not do such things with other species. It was not part of their culture. It was seen as strange, almost shameful. But what was shame compared to watching her daughter die? She had been sitting with that terrible choice for 2 days now. Every hour that passed, Hana grew weaker. The cracks in her carapace grew longer. Time was running out. Yuna stood up. Her legs shook. She wrapped Hana carefully in a thermal cloth, the only blanket they owned. The little larva made a soft sound, something between a chirp and a sigh. Yuna's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them away. She had made her decision. Walking through the refugee quarter, Yuna kept her head down. She did not want to see the eyes of others who knew where she was going. She did not want their pity or their judgment. She just wanted to save her child. The human quarter was different from where she lived. The lights here were steady and bright. The air smelled clean. The corridors were wide and empty. Yuna felt out of place, a broken creature in a world that was whole. She found a public terminal and stopped. Her manipulator appendages shook as she accessed the station's network. She felt sick, but she made herself search for what she needed. The search was not hard. Other desperate beings had walked this path before her. There were listings, advertisements, ways to find humans who paid for companionship. Yuna read through them, her translator device working hard to make sense of the various human languages. One name appeared several times in the refugee whisper network. Do-hyun, a cargo hauler. He lived alone on his ship docked at the station. The whispers said he paid well. They said he was quiet, not cruel. Some even said he was kind, though Yuna did not believe kindness existed in transactions like this. She found his ship's docking number and saved it to her device. Then she carried Hana back to their small corner of the refugee quarter. She laid her daughter down on their sleeping mat. Hana's breathing was so quiet that Yuna had to lean close to hear it. "I will fix this," Yuna whispered in their own language. "I promise you, little one. I will make you well." Hana did not respond. She might have been sleeping. She might have been too weak to answer. Yuna did not know which was worse. She found another refugee, an old Velothi female named Banhi, and asked her to watch Hana. Banhi looked at Yuna for a long moment. She did not ask questions. She just nodded and moved to sit beside the sleeping child. Yuna walked back to the human quarter. Each step felt heavy. She thought about her mate, killed in the first wave of the war. She thought about her homeworld burning. She thought about everything she had lost. And then she thought about Hana's smile, from before the hunger had made her too weak to smile anymore. That memory gave her the strength to keep walking. The docking area for private ships was controlled and secure. But humans liked their privacy, and the security was automated. Yuna used her identification card to access the corridor. The system beeped but let her through. She found Do-hyun's ship. It was not large or fancy. It looked like a working ship, practical and worn. The name painted on the side was in human letters she could not read. She stood in front of the door for a full minute, trying to find courage. Finally, she pressed the communication button. Nothing happened for several seconds. Then a voice came through the speaker, translated by her device. "Yes, who is there?" "My name is Yuna," she said. Her voice sounded stronger than she felt. "I am here to discuss an arrangement." There was a pause. "An arrangement?" "Yes, I was told you pay for companionship. I am willing to provide that service." The pause was longer this time. "I think there has been a mistake." "No mistake," Yuna said quickly. She could not let him turn her away. "Not now, one night, full payment before anything happens. No questions about my past. Those are my only terms." She waited. The silence stretched. She was about to speak again when the door suddenly opened. A human male stood there. He was not young but not old either. His face had lines in it. Marks of worry or laughter, she could not tell which. His eyes were dark and looked tired. He wore simple clothes stained with work. He stared at her. She stared back. "Please," Yuna said, and hated how weak the word sounded. "I need the money. I need it now." The human's expression changed. It became softer somehow. "Come inside," he said. "We should talk." Yuna stepped through the door. It closed behind her with a soft hiss. She was inside now. There was no going back. She just hoped the price she was willing to pay would be enough to save Hana's life. Do-hyun's quarters were small but clean. Yuna saw tools on a workbench, food containers and human writing stacked neatly on a shelf, and a sleeping area through an open door. Everything had a place. Everything looked organized. It was the home of someone who lived alone and had learned to keep order in a small space. The human gestured to a chair. "Please sit down." Yuna did not sit. She stood straight, trying to look stronger than she felt. Her manipulator appendages clutched her translator device. "I stated my terms at the door. Do you accept them or not?" Do-hyun looked confused. "I think you have the wrong person. I never put out any requests for companionship. I live alone. I work alone. Someone must have used my name." Yuna felt panic rise in her chest. This could not be happening. She had spent 2 days working up the courage for this moment. She had left her dying daughter with a stranger. She had walked through the station like a ghost, sure that everyone could see her shame, and now this human was telling her it was all a mistake. "Then I will pay you," Yuna said quickly. "Not with money. I have none. But I can work. I can clean or repair things or—" "Stop," Do-hyun said gently. He held up his hands. "Just stop for a moment. Why do you need money so badly? What is happening?" Yuna felt something break inside her. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was hope. She did not know. But suddenly words were pouring out of her, fast and desperate. "My daughter is dying. She needs special nutrients. Nutrients that only come from my homeworld. But my homeworld is gone, burning. The war destroyed everything. The station gives us food, but not the right kind. Hana has 3 days. Maybe less. I tried everything legal. I have no money. I have nothing to sell except myself. So here I am. I will do whatever you want. Just please, I need enough to buy the nutrients from the black market." She stopped talking. Her whole body was shaking. She had said more to this stranger than she had said to anyone since arriving at the station. Do-hyun stood very still. His face showed many emotions passing across it. Surprise, concern, something that might have been pain. Finally he spoke. "Stay here. Do not leave. I will be back soon." "Where are you going?" Yuna asked. "To help your daughter," he said simply. Then he walked out the door. Yuna stood alone in the quarters of a human she did not know. She did not understand what had just happened. Was this a trick? Would he call security? Would she be arrested for solicitation? But he had said he was going to help Hana. She chose to believe that. She had to believe something. She waited. Minutes felt like hours. She looked around the quarters again. On a small shelf, she saw a photograph in a frame. It showed a human female and a smaller human, probably a child. They were smiling. The photograph looked old, worn, like it had been touched many times. The door opened. Do-hyun came back in. He was carrying a medical kit and holding a small crystalline vial. Yuna recognized it immediately. Her breath caught. Velothi larval supplement, Do-hyun said. He set it on the table. This should last about a week. The clinic on level 7 keeps a small stock for the refugee medical bay. I convinced them to give me one. Yuna stared at the vial. It glowed softly, full of the nutrients Hana desperately needed. It was life in crystal form. She reached for it slowly, afraid it might disappear if she moved too fast. How much do I owe you? She whispered. Nothing. That is not possible. These cost nothing, Do-hyun repeated. You owe me nothing. Yuna picked up the vial with shaking hands. What do you want in return? Do-hyun sat down heavily in his chair. I want you to take that to your daughter. I want you to feed her, and then I want you to come back here so we can figure out a real solution. A real solution? 1 week is not enough, Do-hyun said. This buys time, but you need a long-term plan. You need a steady supply. You need resources. We have to figure something out. Yuna did not understand. Why are you helping me? You do not know me. Do-hyun looked at the photograph on the shelf. His expression became distant. I had a daughter once. Her name was Yoonji. She died 3 years ago. There was an accident at the colony where we lived. A structural failure. I was off station working when it happened. He paused. Yuna said nothing. She just listened. My wife died too, Do-hyun continued. I lost them both in one day. For a long time I was angry at the universe. Angry at the colony administrators who cut costs. Angry at myself for not being there. Angry at everyone who could have prevented it but did not. He looked up at Yuna. I cannot bring my daughter back, but I can help yours. So that is what I am going to do. Yuna felt tears forming in her compound eyes. In her culture, crying in front of strangers was considered very private, almost shameful. But she could not stop the tears. I do not know what to say. Say you will come back after you feed your daughter, Do-hyun said. Say you will trust me enough to let me help. Yuna nodded. I will come back. I promise. There is a guest quarters through that door, Do-hyun pointed. It is just a small room with a bed, but it is warm and quiet. Bring your daughter here tonight. Let her rest somewhere comfortable. We can talk more in the morning. You are giving us a place to sleep? The refugee quarter is crowded and cold, Do-hyun said. Your daughter needs rest and warmth. I have space. It makes sense. Nothing about this made sense to Yuna. But she was not going to argue, not when her daughter's life hung in the balance. She clutched the vial to her chest. Thank you. Thank you so much. I will repay you somehow. I swear it. Just take care of your daughter, Do-hyun said. That is all I want. Yuna left the ship and ran. She ran through the human quarter, past the clean corridors and bright lights. She ran through the security checkpoint. She ran down into the refugee quarter where the lights flickered and the air was stale. Banhee was still sitting with Hana. The old Velothi looked up as Yuna arrived. Breathless, did you? Banhee started to ask, but stopped when she saw the vial in Yuna's hands. I got it, Yuna said. She knelt beside Hana and carefully opened the vial. The crystals inside dissolved in water, creating a glowing liquid. She lifted Hana's head gently and helped her drink. At first, nothing happened. Then Hana's antennae twitched. Her eyes opened slightly. She made a small sound, the first sound she had made in days. That is it, little one, Yuna whispered. Drink, get strong. She fed Hana the entire dose. Within minutes, the change was visible. Hana's carapace looked less dull. The cracks seemed smaller. She moved her small limbs and curled against Yuna's body. Banhee watched with wide eyes. How did you get this? A human gave it to me, Yuna said. For nothing. He just gave it to me. Banhee looked skeptical. Humans do not give things for nothing. This one did, Yuna said. She gathered Hana in her arms. And he offered us a place to stay tonight. Somewhere warm. You are going back to him? With your child? Yes. Be careful, Banhee warned. Kindness sometimes has a price that is not spoken out loud. I know, Yuna said. But I have to trust someone. And he saved my daughter's life. That means something. She carried Hana back through the station. The little larva felt heavier already, more alive. By the time they reached Do-hyun's ship, Hana's eyes were fully open and she was looking around with curiosity. Do-hyun opened the door before Yuna could knock. He looked at Hana and smiled. It was a sad smile, but genuine. She looks better already. The medicine is working, Yuna said. Thank you. The guest room is ready, Do-hyun said. There are blankets and the temperature is adjusted. I set it warmer based on Velothi environmental needs. Yuna followed him to the small guest quarters. It was tiny, barely bigger than a storage closet, but there was a real bed with clean blankets. The air was warm and moved gently. It was the most comfortable place Yuna had been since leaving her homeworld. She laid Hana on the bed. The little larva stretched out, her body relaxing into the softness. "I will leave you alone," Do-hyun said from the doorway. "If you need anything, just call. I will be in the main room." "Do-hyun," Yuna said. He turned back. "Why are you really doing this?" He was quiet for a moment. "Because someone should have helped my family when they needed it. No one did. I cannot fix that. But I can be the person who helps when it matters. Maybe that is enough." He left, closing the door gently behind him. Yuna lay down next to Hana. She held her daughter close and felt the steady breathing of a child who was going to survive. For the first time in weeks, Yuna let herself hope that maybe, just maybe, everything would be okay. Morning came slowly on a space station. There was no sun to rise, just the artificial lights that brightened according to the station's programmed day cycle. Yuna woke to find Hana moving around on the bed, her small body much stronger than it had been the night before. The little larva's carapace showed more color. The cracks had begun to heal. She chirped softly, a sound of contentment that Yuna had not heard in so long that she had almost forgotten it. Yuna got up carefully. She opened the door to the guest quarters and stepped into the main room. Do-hyun was sitting at his workstation, surrounded by screens showing data and star charts. He looked like he had not slept at all. "Good morning," he said without turning around. "How is Hana?" "Much better. The medicine worked quickly." "Good." Do-hyun gestured to the screens. "I have been working on something." "Come look," Yuna approached. The screens showed supply routes, station locations, and lists of items with prices next to them. She saw references to Velothi nutrients, medical supplies, and transport costs. "What is all this?" she asked. "Options," Do-hyun said. He looked tired but determined. "I spent the night researching ways to get you and Hana a steady supply of the nutrients she needs. There are 3 possible paths, but none of them are good." He pointed to the first screen. "Option 1 is the black market, but the prices are impossible. Even if I sold my ship, I could not buy enough to keep Hana healthy for more than a few months." Yuna nodded. She had already known the black market was too expensive. Option 2 is a mining expedition into Velothi space. There are still some areas where the crystals grow wild, but those areas are in the middle of the war zone. Going there would be suicide. "I cannot take Hana into a war zone," Yuna said quietly. "No," Do-hyun agreed. "Option 3 is synthetic nutrients. Scientists have been trying to create artificial versions of what Velothi children need, but the synthetic versions are not safe yet. Several children got sick during the trials. Some died." Yuna felt her hope draining away. "So there is no solution." "I did not say that." Do-hyun pulled up another screen. "There is a 4th option. It is dangerous and probably illegal, but it might work." The screen showed a map of space near the border between human and Velothi territory. Red lines marked war zones. Blue lines marked patrol routes. And thin green lines showed something else, paths that weaved between the red and blue. "What are these green lines?" Yuna asked. "Refugee routes," Do-hyun said. "The paths people use to escape the war. There is an organization called Haven Network that operates along these routes. They smuggle supplies out of Velothi space. Medical supplies, food, nutrients. They give them to refugees for free." Yuna leaned closer. "I went to Haven Network. They told me the waiting list was 6 months long." "It is," Do-hyun confirmed. "They are overwhelmed. They do not have enough ships or enough people. They cannot help everyone who needs help. So how does this help us?" Do-hyun turned to look at her. "My cargo route normally goes through the outer belt sectors. Safe space. Boring but profitable. But I could change my route. I could go through the borderland zone instead. I could run supplies for Haven Network myself." Yuna stared at him. "You would do that?" "If I do one run every 2 weeks, I can bring back enough nutrients for a dozen families, including yours. Hana would never run out." "But you would lose your normal cargo contracts," Yuna said. "You would lose money. Probably. You could lose your ship license for going into restricted space. Also possible. You could die. The borderland zone is dangerous. Pirates, raiders, military patrols from both sides." "Yes," Do-hyun said calmly. "All of that is true." Yuna did not understand. Why would you risk all of that for people you do not know? Do-hyun was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "My daughter died because people followed the rules. The colony administrators knew the structure was failing. They had reports about the cracks in the habitat dome, but fixing it would have cost money and time. It would have meant breaking their construction schedule. So they followed the rules and did nothing. And my daughter died," he stood up. "I will not be the person who follows the rules when breaking them is the right thing to do. Not anymore." Yuna felt something shift inside her. This human barely knew her. He had no obligation to help. But he was willing to risk everything because it was the right thing to do. "I want to help," Yuna said. Do-hyun looked surprised. "You do not have to." "I know Velothi space," Yuna interrupted. "I know the safe routes. I know which contacts can be trusted and which ones cannot. I know the language and the culture. If you are going to do this, you need me." Do-hyun studied her face. "It will be dangerous." "Staying here and watching my daughter slowly starve is also dangerous," Yuna said. "At least this way I am fighting for her life instead of just waiting for death." Do-hyun smiled. It was a real smile this time, not sad. "Then we are partners." "Partners," Yuna agreed. Over the next few days, they made plans. Do-hyun filed new route requests with the station authority. Yuna reached out to old contacts, Velothi who had escaped the war and knew the hidden paths through space. She was careful, using encrypted messages and coded language. Word of their plans spread through the refugee quarter. 3 others came forward to help. The first was Minho, a human in his 30s who had served in the military. He had short hair and a serious face with scars on his hands that spoke of combat. He wanted to help navigate and defend the ship if needed. "I have weapons training," Minho said, "and I know military patrol patterns. I can keep us safe." Do-hyun was hesitant. "I do not want guns on my ship." "Then you will die on your first run," Minho said bluntly. "Raiders do not care about your good intentions. We need to be able to defend ourselves." They argued for an hour before reaching a compromise. Minho could bring weapons, but they would only be used for defense, never to start a fight. The second volunteer was Jisoo, a female Velothi who was older than Yuna. She had been a navigator on a transport ship before the war. She knew star charts and how to plot courses through dangerous space. "I lost my whole family," Jisoo said quietly. 3 children, my mate, my parents. All gone. I have nothing left to lose, but I can still help others survive. Yuna felt a connection with Jisoo immediately. They were both mothers who had lost everything except the will to help others. The third volunteer was Taeyong, a young human engineer with quick hands and a clever mind. He was thin and nervous, but incredibly smart. "I can modify the ship," Taeyong said. "Make it harder to detect on sensors. Reinforce the hull. Improve the engine efficiency. If we are going into danger, we should be as prepared as possible." Do-hyun looked at his small crew. A grieving father, a desperate mother, a former soldier, a widow, and a brilliant engineer. It was not the crew he had ever imagined having. But it felt right. "When do we leave?" Jisoo asked. 3 days, Do-hyun said. "That gives Taeyong time to make modifications. It gives me time to file the proper route changes and load the ship with trade goods as cover. And it gives all of us time to be sure this is what we want to do." "I am sure," Minho said immediately. "As am I," Jisoo added. "I have been sure since I heard about the plan," Taeyong said. Yuna nodded. "My daughter's life depends on this. I have never been more sure of anything." Do-hyun took a deep breath. "Then we are doing this. We are really doing this." The 3 days passed quickly. Taeyong worked on the ship day and night, making modifications. Jisoo studied the star charts and plotted their course. Minho acquired weapons and defense equipment through contacts Yuna did not ask about. And Do-hyun handled the official paperwork, making everything look as legal as possible. Yuna spent the time caring for Hana and reaching out to more contacts. She found the location of a Haven Network supply cache, an abandoned mining station in the Borderland zone. It was where they would pick up their first load of nutrients and medical supplies. On the morning they were scheduled to leave, the crew gathered in Do-hyun's ship. Hana was there too, much healthier now, staying close to her mother. "This is it," Do-hyun said. "Last chance to back out." No one moved. No one spoke. They were all committed. "Then let us go save some lives," Do-hyun said. The ship detached from the station and moved out into space. Behind them, orbital station Thal 9 grew smaller. Ahead of them lay the Borderland zone, full of danger and possibility. Yuna held Hana close and watched the stars through the viewport. She thought about how different her life had been just a week ago. She had been ready to sell herself, to give up her dignity, just to buy a few more days for her daughter. Now she was part of a crew. She had a purpose. She had hope. And she had found something she thought no longer existed in the universe. Genuine human kindness without expectation of payment. As the ship jumped to hyperspace, Yuna whispered a prayer in her own language. A prayer for safe travel. A prayer for success. And a prayer of thanks for the human who had chosen to help when he did not have to. The jump activated. Stars stretched into lines. And they were on their way into the unknown. The borderland zone looked beautiful from space. Stars glittered against the darkness. Nebulae painted clouds of purple and blue across the void. If you did not know better, you would think it was peaceful. But Yuna knew better. Somewhere in this beauty, war machines hunted each other. Raiders lurked near the trade routes, and desperate people tried to cross invisible lines drawn by governments that had never asked them if they wanted to be part of a war. The ship moved carefully through an asteroid field. Jisoo sat at the navigation console, her antennae focused on the sensor readings. Taeyong monitored the engine output. Minho watched the weapon systems even though they were powered down, and Do-hyun piloted the ship with steady hands. Yuna stood near the back holding Hana. The little larva watched everything with curious eyes. She did not understand the danger they were in. To her this was just an adventure. How much longer? Do-hyun asked. 2 hours to the cash station, Jisoo replied. But we need to be careful. I am picking up debris in our path. Could be from destroyed ships. War debris or raider activity? Minho asked. Hard to tell. They continued in silence. The ship weaved between asteroids, following the path Jisoo had calculated. It was a route that avoided the main patrol areas, using the asteroids as natural cover. Finally, they reached the abandoned mining station. It was a small structure, barely visible against the darkness of space. Old and forgotten, exactly the kind of place Haven Network used to hide supplies. I'm not detecting any other ships, Jisoo said. We are alone. That we know of, Minho added. Raiders could be hiding on the other side of that asteroid cluster. We do not have a choice, Do-hyun said. We need those supplies. They docked with the station. The airlock connected with a hiss. Do-hyun, Yuna, and Minho suited up and went inside, leaving Jisoo and Taeyong with the ship. Hana stayed with Jisoo, who promised to keep her safe. Inside the station, emergency lights flickered. The air was stale but breathable. They followed the directions Yuna had received from her contacts, moving through empty corridors until they found the storage room. It was full of supplies. Crates of Velothi nutrients, medical equipment, food suitable for a dozen different species, and water purification systems. Everything refugees needed to survive. This is more than I expected, Do-hyun said. They began loading crates onto magnetic sleds, moving them back toward the airlock. It was hard work, but none of them complained. Each crate represented lives saved. They were halfway done when Jisoo's voice came through their communicators. We have a problem. Sensors are picking up a ship approaching. Fast. How fast? Minho asked. Too fast to be a cargo ship. It is a raider vessel, Do-hyun cursed. How long do we have? 10 minutes. Maybe less. We need to leave now, Minho said. We are not finished loading, Yuna protested. We need more supplies. We need to survive, Minho countered. If we are here when that raider arrives, we are dead. Do-hyun made the decision. Take what we have. Move fast. They rushed the remaining loaded sleds back to the ship. No time for careful loading. They just shoved crates into the cargo bay and sealed the door. The ship detached from the station just as the raider vessel came into view. It was an ugly ship, covered in mismatched armor plates and weapons. Pirates built their ships from scavenged parts, making them look like metal monsters. They are hailing us, Jisoo said. Do not answer, Minho advised. They will just demand we surrender. If we do not answer, they will assume we are hostile, Do-hyun said. They are going to attack either way, Minho said. At least this way we do not waste time talking. Do-hyun made the ship accelerate. They dove back into the asteroid field, using the large rocks as cover. The raider ship followed, faster and more maneuverable than they were. They are charging weapons, Jisoo reported. Her voice was calm, but Yuna could see the fear in her body language. Hang on, Do-hyun said. He threw the ship into a sharp turn, barely avoiding a massive asteroid. The raider fired. The shot missed, hitting the asteroid instead and sending debris flying. I can shoot back, Minho said. Give me permission to fire. Not yet, Do-Yun said. We are not killers. They are trying to kill us. Not yet, Do-Yun repeated firmly. They twisted through the asteroid field. The raider stayed close behind, firing occasionally. Most shots missed, but one grazed the ship's hull. Alarms blared. Hull breach in Cargo Bay 3, Taeyong called out, sealing emergency doors. We lost a cargo section, Jisoo said. Some of the supplies are gone. Yuna felt her heart sink. They had risked so much to get those supplies, and now they were floating in space, lost. Another shot hit them. This time it struck the engine section. The ship shuddered. Engine output dropping, Taeyong said. We cannot keep this speed much longer. Do-Hyun's jaw tightened. He looked at Minho. Fine, fire back. But aim for their engines, not their crew section. Disable them, do not kill them. Minho did not argue. He targeted the Raider's engine array and fired. The first shot went wide. The second hit true. The Raider ship's engine sparked and died. It began drifting, powerless, direct hit, Minho said with satisfaction. They are dead in space. Are they going to be okay? Yuna asked. The crew, I mean. Their life support is fine, Jisoo confirmed. They will survive. Someone will eventually find them. Do-Yun piloted the ship out of the asteroid field. Behind them, the Raider vessel grew smaller, helpless, and drifting. Once they were clear, he stopped the ship. Damage report, he said. Engine is damaged but functional, Taeyong said. We can make it back to the station, but it will be slow. We lost about 30% of the cargo, Jisoo added. The rest is secure, 30%. Yuna did the math in her head. That meant families would not get supplies. Children would go hungry. People would suffer because they had not been able to carry more. It is not enough, she said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. We risked everything, and it is not enough. We can help some families, but not all of them. There are hundreds of refugees who need these nutrients, thousands. We barely made a difference. We made a difference to the families we can help, Do-Hyun said gently, but it is not enough. Yuna repeated. Do-Hyun stood up from the pilot's chair. He walked over to where Yuna was standing with Hana. He knelt down so he was at eye level with the little larva. Hana, he said, do you know why your mother is so brave? Hana chirped softly. Yuna translated. She wants to know what you mean. Your mother was willing to give up everything to save you. That is love. And love does not calculate if it is enough. Love just acts. We saved some families today. Next run, we will save more. And the run after that, even more. We might not save everyone, but we will save who we can. He stood up and looked at the whole crew. This was our first run. We made mistakes. We learned. Next time will be better. And we will keep doing this until the war ends or until we cannot do it anymore. Agreed? Agreed, Minho said. Agreed, Jisoo and Taeyong said together. Yuna held Hana close. She thought about what Do-Hyun had said. He was right. They could not save everyone. But they could save some. And that was better than saving no one. Agreed, she said. The journey back to the station took 2 days because of the damaged engine. During that time, the crew talked about what they had learned. What had gone right? What had gone wrong? How to improve? Minho wanted better weapons and sensors. Jisoo wanted updated star charts. Taeyong wanted to reinforce the cargo bay so they would not lose supplies if hit. And Do-Yun wanted to establish better communication with Haven Network, so they would know about Raider activity. Yuna spent much of the time with Jisoo. They talked about their lost families. They talked about their homeworld. They shared memories of better days before the war had taken everything. Do you think the war will ever end? Jisoo asked during one of these conversations. I do not know, Yuna admitted. But I know that even during war there can be kindness. Do-Hyun proved that. If one human can choose compassion over profit, maybe others will too. Maybe that is how wars end, not with treaties but with individuals choosing to care. When they finally reached orbital station Thal 9, word had already spread. Refugees crowded the docking bay. They had heard that Do-Hyun's crew had made a run and brought back supplies. The crew distributed what they had brought. Philathi nutrients for children like Hana, medicine for the sick, food for the hungry. It was not enough for everyone, but it was enough for dozens of families. Yuna watched parents cry with relief as they received nutrients for their children. She saw the hope in their eyes, the gratitude. and she understood what Do-hyun had meant. They had made a difference to these families. That mattered. A young Velothi mother approached Yuna. She was holding a small larva, even younger than Hana. "Thank you," the mother said in their shared language. "My son was dying. You saved him." Yuna did not know what to say. She looked at Do-hyun, who was helping distribute supplies. He caught her eye and smiled. "Do not thank me," Yuna finally said to the mother. "Thank the human. He is the one who chose to risk everything." "Then I will thank you both," the mother said, "because you chose to help him." As the distribution continued, station security arrived. 2 officers pushed through the crowd. They did not look happy. "Do-hyun," one of them said, "we need to talk." Do-hyun stopped what he was doing. "What is this about?" Your route filed with the station authority. Your actual path according to your ship's logs. They do not match." The docking bay got very quiet. Everyone was watching. ICANX by the station security office was cold and sterile. Do-hyun sat in a small room with a table and 2 chairs. They had not put him in restraints, but the door was locked. Through a window he could see officers talking, their faces serious. He had known this was a possibility. You could not break station regulations without consequences. He had filed one route and taken another. He had entered restricted space. He had made contact with an organization that some governments called criminal. The door opened. An officer came in carrying a data pad. She sat down across from him. "I am Officer Heejin," she said. "I need to ask you some questions about your recent activities." "I understand," Do-hyun said calmly. "Your ship's logs show you went into the borderland zone. That area is restricted for civilian vessels. Why did you go there?" "To get supplies for refugees." "What kind of supplies?" "Food, medicine, nutrients for alien children who were starving." Officer Hyejin made notes on her pad. "You obtained these supplies from a Haven Network cache. Are you aware that Haven Network is classified as a smuggling organization by station authority?" "I am aware that they are called smugglers," Do-hyun said. "I am also aware that they save lives. That is not your decision to make." "Then whose decision is it?" Do-hyun asked. "The bureaucrats who say refugees must wait 6 months while their children die? The administrators who have all the rules but no solutions?" Heejin looked up from her pad. "You broke the law." "I did. You endangered your crew. They came willingly. You operated outside proper channels. Because proper channels do not work," Do-hyun said. "I followed every proper channel when my wife and daughter died. I filed reports. I spoke to investigators. I trusted the system. And nothing changed. The people responsible faced no consequences. The safety violations that killed my family were swept under the rug. So forgive me if I do not have much faith in proper channels anymore." Heejin was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "The penalty for unauthorized route deviation is loss of your ship license. The penalty for smuggling is confiscation of your ship and possible jail time. Do you understand that?" "I do. And you did it anyway?" "Yes," Do-hyun said. "Because some things are more important than following rules. Saving children is more important. Giving desperate families hope is more important. Being able to look at myself in the mirror is more important." Before Heejin could respond, there was a commotion outside the office. Raised voices. Someone arguing with the officers. Do-hyun could not hear what they were saying, but he recognized one of the voices. It was Yuna. The door opened. Another officer came in. "Sir, there is a situation. The refugees are gathering outside. They are demanding to speak on behalf of the detained." "How many refugees?" Heejin asked. "At last count, about 200. And more are coming." Heejin stood up. "Stay here," she told Do-hyun. She left the room. Through the window, Do-hyun could see the situation developing. Refugees of multiple species were crowding into the security office lobby. Velothi, humans, Kryn, Belor, species he did not even recognize. All of them holding signs. All of them chanting. He could not hear the words, but he could read some of the signs. Do-hyun is a hero. Saving children is not a crime. Punish compassion. Encourage cruelty. In the middle of the crowd, he saw Yuna. She was holding Hana in one arm and a sign in the other. She was shouting along with everyone else. An officer tried to move the crowd back. They did not move. More security was called. But the refugees did not turn violent. They just stood there, making their voices heard. Then something unexpected happened. Human residents of the station started joining the protest. Station workers, shopkeepers, regular people who had heard what Do-hyun had done and decided it mattered. Hyejin returned to the interrogation room. She looked tired. "This is complicated," she said. "You clearly broke the law, but you also saved lives. The refugees are not going to let this go quietly." "I never asked them to protest," Do-hyun said. "I know, but they are doing it anyway." She sat back down. "Here is the situation. My supervisors are getting pressure from multiple directions. The refugee advocacy groups are calling. The media has picked up the story. Even some politicians are getting involved. This is becoming bigger than one ship captain breaking traffic laws." "What does that mean for me?" Do-hyun asked. "I honestly do not know yet." Over the next several hours, the situation escalated. The protest grew larger. More refugees joined. More residents joined. Someone started streaming it on the station's network. Soon people on other stations were watching. The story spread. Human risks everything to feed alien children. Cargo hauler becomes hero to refugee community. When is compassion a crime? The station authority held an emergency meeting. They had a problem. Technically, Do-hyun had broken the law. But if they punished him harshly, they would face enormous public backlash. And elections were coming up. Politicians did not want to be seen as the ones who punished someone for helping children. Finally, after 6 hours of detention, Hyejin came back with news. "Here is the decision," she said. "The smuggling charges are being dropped. Haven Network supplies were obtained without commercial transaction, so technically it does not qualify as smuggling under station law." Do-hyun felt relief wash over him. "And the route deviation? That is still a violation. You will lose your commercial cargo license. You cannot operate as a for-profit hauler anymore." Do-hyun's heart sank. His ship was his livelihood. Without a cargo license, he could not earn money. He would lose everything. "However," Hyejin continued, "the authority is creating a new classification: humanitarian transport vessels. Ships that carry aid supplies for refugee relief are exempt from standard route restrictions. They can enter the borderland zone if they are working with registered aid organizations." "Haven Network is not registered," Do-hyun pointed out. "It is now," Hyejin said. "Emergency registration was approved an hour ago. Political pressure works fast sometimes." Do-hyun could barely believe it. "So I can keep doing the supply runs? Under the humanitarian license, yes. You will not earn money from it. But you can do it legally." It was not perfect. He would still lose his commercial income. He would still struggle financially. But he could continue helping people. That mattered more than profit. "I accept those terms," Do-hyun said. "There is one more thing," Hyejin said. "The station authority wants you to testify at a hearing. They want you to explain what you did and why. They want the public to understand that they are taking refugee issues seriously." "They want to use me for good publicity," Do-hyun said. "Basically, yes. But it also gives you a platform to talk about what refugees need. You can make a real difference." Do-hyun thought about it. He did not like being used for political purposes. But if it helped refugees, if it brought attention to their suffering, then maybe it was worth it. "I will testify," he said. They released him. When he walked out of the security office, the crowd erupted in cheers. Refugees pressed forward, wanting to touch him to thank him. It was overwhelming. Yuna pushed through the crowd with Hana. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I am fine," Do-hyun said. "They are dropping most of the charges. I can keep doing the supply runs. That is wonderful! But I lost my cargo license. I cannot earn money anymore." Yuna's expression fell. "I am sorry. This is my fault. If I had not come to you that night—" "Stop," Do-hyun interrupted. "None of this is your fault. I made my choices. I do not regret them. But how will you survive without income?" "I will figure something out," Do-hyun said. "I always do." A human woman approached them. She was well-dressed, clearly someone important. "Excuse me, are you Do-hyun?" "I am. My name is Sujin. I run a charitable foundation that supports refugee relief. I have been following your story. I want to help." "Help how?" Do-hyun asked cautiously. "Your ship needs repairs. You need supplies for your humanitarian runs. You need funding to keep operating. My foundation can provide all of that. We want to sponsor your work." Do-hyun was stunned. "Why would you do that?" Because you are doing what we wish we could do, Sujin said. We have money but no way to reach the refugees who need help most. You have the courage and the knowledge. Together we can save more lives. I do not want to be part of some publicity scheme, Do-hyun said. This is not about publicity, Sujin assured him. This is about results. If you agree to work with us, we will fund your operations. No strings attached. You decide where to go and who to help. We just provide the resources. Do-hyun looked at Yuna. She nodded encouragingly. Okay, Do-hyun said. I accept your help. The hearing was scheduled for 3 days later. In that time, the story continued to spread. News networks across multiple systems picked it up. Yuna's story became part of the narrative. A desperate mother willing to sacrifice everything for her child. A human who chose compassion over profit. Valathi networks ran the story with special interest. Yuna became something of a celebrity among her own people. Some criticized her for what she had almost done, but most praised her courage, and they especially praised Do-hyun for his kindness. The day of the hearing arrived. The judicial chamber was packed. Media cameras lined the walls. Refugees filled the seats, and Do-hyun sat at the front waiting to testify. The judge asked him to explain his 3 weeks after the hearing. Do-hyun stood in a shipyard looking at his vessel. Taeyong and a team of engineers were making major modifications. The cargo bays were being reinforced. New sensors were being installed. The engine was being upgraded. Sujin's foundation had kept their promise. Money flowed freely for improvements. The ship was being transformed from a basic cargo hauler into something more capable, something that could handle the dangers of the borderland zone. Looking good, Minho said, walking up beside Do-hyun. The former soldier had a tablet in his hand, showing weapon system specs. The new defensive arrays will give us a much better chance against raiders. I still do not like having weapons, Do-hyun said. You do not have to like them, Minho replied. You just have to accept that they keep us alive. Yuna approached with Jisoo. Both Valathi females looked excited. We finished mapping the new routes, Yuna said. We can reach 3 more Haven network caches if we adjust our timing. That means 3 times as many supplies, Jisoo added. 3 times as many families helped. Do-hyun smiled. The crew had come together beautifully. Each person brought unique skills. Each person was driven by the same purpose. They were not just a crew anymore. They were a family united by mission. But there was a problem Do-hyun had not shared with them yet. A problem that kept him awake at night. We need to talk, he said. All of us. Let us go somewhere private. They found an empty meeting room in the shipyard. Once everyone was seated, Do-hyun laid out the situation. The Foundation is paying for ship repairs and supplies. That is wonderful, but it does not cover living expenses for the crew. You all have families. You need food, housing, basic necessities. I cannot pay you. I have no income anymore. The room was quiet. I have been thinking about this, Do-hyun continued. Maybe we need to recruit volunteers for each run instead of having a permanent crew. People who can afford to donate their time. That way you all can find paying work and still help occasionally. No, Minho said immediately. No, Do-hyun repeated. I am not leaving this crew, Minho said. Pay or no pay. I have savings. I can live on that for a while. I am staying too, Taeyong said. This is the most important thing I have ever done. I am not walking away, Jisoo nodded. My mate is dead. My children are dead. Money means nothing to me anymore. Purpose is what I need. This crew gives me purpose. Do-hyun looked at Yuna. She held Hana in her arms. The little larva was playing with her mother's antennae, happy and healthy. I owe you my daughter's life, Yuna said quietly. I will work for free for the rest of my days, and it will not be enough to repay that debt. I am staying. Do-hyun felt emotion rising in his chest. You all have to survive. You need money for food and housing. Then we will figure it out together, Yuna said. We are a crew, a family. Families do not abandon each other over money. There is another option, a voice said from the doorway. They all turned. Sujin stood there, having entered quietly. I apologize for interrupting, but I overheard your conversation. This is a private discussion, Do-hyun said. I know, but I have a solution. Sujin stepped into the room. The Foundation can provide living stipends for the crew. Not large salaries, but enough to cover basic needs. Food, housing, medical care. Why would you do that? Do-hyun asked. Because we want this mission to succeed, Sujin said. You cannot run humanitarian operations if your crew is starving. It is a practical investment. Do-hyun was suspicious. What do you get in return? Results, Soo-jin said simply. Every refugee you help is a success for our foundation. Every life you save justifies our existence. We are not asking you to compromise your mission. We are asking you to let us support it. The crew looked at each other. The offer seemed too good to be true. But Soo-jin had been honest with them so far. There is one condition, Soo-jin added. We need regular reports, numbers of people helped, supplies delivered, routes taken. We need documentation to show our donors that their money is making a difference. That seems reasonable, Jisoo said. Then we accept, Do-hyun said. Thank you. With financial concerns addressed, the crew focused on preparing for their next run. But this run would be different, bigger, more ambitious. They had received intelligence from Haven Network about a large refugee convoy trying to escape Velothi space. Nearly 300 people, including many children. They were hiding in an asteroid cluster, too afraid to risk the crossing to safe space. They need supplies immediately, Yuna explained to the crew. Food, medicine, nutrients. But more than that, they need protection. Raiders know the convoy is there. It is only a matter of time before they attack. So we are not just delivering supplies, Minho said. We are running protection. Can we protect that many people? Taeyong asked nervously. We will not be alone, Yuna said. Haven Network is sending 2 more ships. And I have contacted some old friends. Velothi who escaped the war and have ships of their own. They want to help. How many ships total? Do-hyun asked. 5, including ours. Minho looked thoughtful. 5 ships. Maybe we can do this, but it will be dangerous. Everything we do is dangerous, Do-hyun said. But this is important. We are not just saving lives now. We are saving hundreds of lives. They prepared for a week, gathering supplies, coordinating with the other ships, planning routes. Yuna worked almost non-stop, using every contact she had to gather intelligence about raider activity and military patrols. Hana stayed with Banhee in the refugee quarter. Yuna hated leaving her daughter, but this mission was too dangerous to bring a child. She made sure Hana had enough nutrients for 2 weeks and promised to return as soon as possible. On the day of departure, the 5 ships gathered at a distant point outside the station. Do-hyun's ship, 2 Haven Network vessels, and 2 ships crewed by Velothi refugees. It was a small fleet with a big mission. They jumped to hyperspace together, heading for the borderland zone. The journey took 2 days. When they arrived at the asteroid cluster, they found the refugee convoy exactly where intelligence said they would be. 300 people crammed into makeshift shelters carved into asteroids. Their supplies were almost gone. Children were crying from hunger. Adults looked exhausted and afraid. The 5 ships began distributing supplies immediately. Food, water, medicine, nutrients. The refugees accepted everything with desperate gratitude. Many of them were seeing hope for the first time in weeks. Yuna worked alongside Jisoo, handing out Velothi nutrients to families with children. She saw herself in these parents. The same desperation, the same fear, the same willingness to do anything to save their children. Thank you, a mother said to Yuna in their shared language. Thank you so much. Thank the humans, Yuna replied. They are the ones who chose to help. While supplies were being distributed, Minho coordinated with the other ships to set up a defensive perimeter. Sensors monitored space around the cluster. If raiders came, they would have warning. But warning came sooner than expected. On the second day of the operation, the sensors picked up multiple ships approaching. Fast, armed, raiders. How many? Do-hyun asked. 6 ships, Minho reported. They outnumber us and outgun us. We cannot fight 6 ships, Taeyong said, his voice shaking. We do not have to fight them, Do-hyun said. We have to delay them long enough for the convoy to run. He opened a communication channel to all 5 ships. This is Do-hyun. Raiders are incoming. We need to get the convoy moving now. Every ship capable of carrying refugees, load up. We will cover your escape. The order went out. Refugees scrambled to board the ships. The convoy's own small vessels, barely spaceworthy, fired up their engines. Within minutes, the exodus began. But the raiders were closing fast. They would reach firing range before the convoy could escape. We need to buy more time, Minho said. Do-hyun made a decision. All ships form a defensive line between the raiders and the convoy. We hold this position. Do-hyun, we cannot win a straight fight, Jisoo warned. We do not need to win. We just need to make them think twice. Raiders are predators. They prefer easy targets. If we show strength, they might back off. It was a gamble. A big one. But it was their only choice. The 5 ships moved into formation. Weapons charged. Shields activated. They waited as the Raider fleet approached. The Raiders stopped just outside weapon range. They were assessing the situation. 6 predators looking at 5 defenders. Do-hyun opened a communication channel. Raider vessels, this is humanitarian fleet. We are protecting refugees under galactic protection laws. Turn back now. There was no response for a long moment. Then a voice came through, rough and mocking. Protection laws mean nothing out here. You have 2 choices. Surrender your cargo and refugees or die. Third choice, Do-hyun said. You turn around and leave. The Raider laughed. You are outnumbered. Numbers do not matter if you are not willing to die, Do-hyun said. Your ships are worth money. Your lives are worth something to you. But we are protecting families. We will die before we let you take them. Are you willing to die for profit? Silence, Do-hyun pressed the point. You can attack us. Maybe you will win. Probably you will win, but we will take at least 2 of your ships down with us. Maybe 3? Is that worth it? Are you willing to sacrifice your crew for the chance to rob desperate refugees? More silence. The Raider ships held their position. Behind the defensive line, the refugee convoy was moving away slow. 6 months had passed since that first desperate night when Yuna had walked to Do-hyun's door. 6 months that had changed everything. The ship looked different now. It had been upgraded so many times that it barely resembled the simple cargo hauler it once was. The name painted on the hull was new too. Haven's Light in multiple languages. Human Velathi and 3 others. A name chosen by the refugees themselves. But the biggest change was not the ship. It was what the ship had become. Do-hyun stood on the bridge of a converted colony vessel. It was massive compared to his old ship. Long corridors. Multiple decks. Hundreds of rooms. The Foundation had purchased it from a failed settlement project and donated it to the cause. How does it feel? Sujin asked, standing beside him. She had become more than a donor. She was a friend now. Someone who believed in the mission as much as they did. Strange, Do-hyun admitted. I spent years alone on a small ship. Now I am captain of something that feels more like a city than a vessel. A city that moves, Sujin said. A city that goes where it is needed most. The colony ship had been transformed into a mobile refugee sanctuary. The cargo bays were now living quarters. The old hydroponics section had been converted into a medical bay, with equipment for treating multiple species. There were classrooms for children. Workshops where adults could learn new skills. Even a small garden where Velathi could grow plants from their homeworld. Over 200 refugees now lived on the ship. Not permanently. This was meant to be a temporary home. A safe place where people could heal, recover, and prepare for their next step. Some would apply for asylum on stations. Some would try to reunite with family. Some would eventually return to their homeworlds when the war ended. But while they were here, they had safety. They had community. They had hope. Yuna had become the director of refugee services. It was her job to help newcomers adjust. To make sure they had what they needed. To listen to their stories and help them plan for their futures. She was good at it. She understood their pain. She had lived it. And she could offer them something precious. The knowledge that things could get better. Hana was 6 months older now. No longer a helpless larva. She was becoming a young Velathi child. Her carapace was bright and strong. Her antennae were long and expressive. She attended the ship's school with children of a dozen different species. It was strange sometimes watching Hana play with human children. Kryn children, Belor children. They did not care about species. They were just friends learning together, laughing together, growing together. Maybe that was what the future looked like. If the children could ignore the differences that divided their parents, maybe there was hope for everyone. The ship's current location was in the neutral corridor, halfway between human and Velathi space. They moved along the refugee routes, offering aid to anyone who needed it. Sometimes they stayed in one place for weeks, helping a large group. Sometimes they moved every few days, following the flow of displaced families. Minho had become the security chief. His military experience was invaluable, but he used it differently now. Not to fight, but to keep people safe. He trained volunteers in emergency procedures. He coordinated with other ships and stations to share intelligence about dangers. and he made sure everyone on the vessel felt protected. Taeyong was the chief engineer. The ship required constant maintenance with so many people living on it. Systems broke down. Equipment needed repair. Taeyong had a team of helpers now, refugees who wanted to learn. He taught them engineering skills that would help them find work later. Jisoo had become the cultural liaison. With so many species living together, conflicts were inevitable. Different customs, different needs, different ways of communicating. Jisoo helped navigate those challenges. She created programs where people could share their cultures, learn from each other, build understanding. The crew had expanded. There were now 30 people working to keep the ship running. Some were paid staff funded by the Foundation, some were volunteers. Some were refugees who wanted to give back while they lived there. They were a real organization now. Registered, legal, respected. But Do-hyun tried not to let the bureaucracy change what they did. At the heart of everything was still a simple mission: help people who needed it. One evening, as Do-hyun walked through the ship's main corridor, he saw something that made him stop. Yuna was sitting in the common area with a new arrival, a female Velati who looked exhausted and scared. She was holding a small larva who looked sick, the same dull carapace, the same weakness, the same desperate situation Yuna had been in 6 months ago. Yuna was speaking softly to the mother. She had a vial of nutrients in her hand. Hana sat beside her, healthy and bright, proof that things could get better. "This is Hana," Yuna was saying. "6 months ago she was dying. Just like your little one. I had no hope, no options. I was ready to do anything to save her. But then I met someone who chose to help, someone who showed me that compassion still exists in this universe." The mother was crying. "I do not have money. I cannot pay." "You do not need money here," Yuna said gently. "This is a place where people help because it is right, not because they get something in return. Your daughter will get the medicine she needs. You will have a safe place to sleep, and when you are ready, we will help you figure out the next step." She handed the vial to the mother. "Welcome home." Do-hyun felt emotion rising in his chest. This was it. This was what they had built. Not just a ship, not just an organization, but a place where Yuna's story became everyone's story, where desperation transformed into hope. He continued walking and found his way to the observation deck. It was a small room with large windows showing the stars outside. He came here often when he needed to think. The door opened behind him. He did not turn around, but he knew who it was. He could recognize Yuna's footsteps now. "She will be okay," Yuna said, joining him at the window. "The little one. Another few doses, and she will be thriving like Hana." "You were good with the mother," Do-hyun said. "I know what she was feeling. The fear, the desperation, the belief that nobody cares." Yuna paused. "I remember walking to your ship that night. I was so afraid, but also determined. I had made my choice. I was going to sell myself to save my daughter. And I gave you something different," Do-hyun said. "You gave me dignity," Yuna said. "You saw a person, not a transaction. You saw a mother, not an alien. That changed everything." They stood in silence for a moment, watching the stars. "Do you ever regret it?" Yuna asked. "You lost your old life. Your cargo business. Your solitude." Do-hyun thought about that. "My old life was empty. I was just going through the motions. Working, sleeping, trying not to think about what I had lost. This life has purpose. It has meaning. I get to see families reunited, children getting healthy, people finding hope. How could I regret that?" "You miss your daughter." "Every day," Do-hyun admitted. "But I think she would be proud of what we are doing. She always wanted to help people. Even when she was small, she would share her toys with other children. She would bring home injured birds and try to heal them. She had a big heart." "Hana talks about you constantly," Yuna said. "She calls you Uncle Do-hyun. I hope that is okay." Do-hyun smiled. "It is more than okay. She sees you as family. We both do." "You are family," Do-hyun said. "This whole ship is family. We are building something bigger than blood. We are building a family based on choice, on compassion, on the decision to care for each other." Footsteps approached. Minyo entered the observation deck. "Sorry to interrupt, but we have a situation." "What kind of situation?" Do-hyun asked. "Good news for once. We just received a communication from Velati Command. The war is entering a ceasefire phase. Preliminary peace talks are starting." Yuna's antennae stood straight up. Peace, are they serious? It is just talks, Minho cautioned. Nothing is certain. But if it holds, if they actually reach an agreement, refugees could start going home. Do-Yun felt mixed emotions. Peace was wonderful. People deserved to return to their homes. But it also meant this mobile sanctuary might not be needed anymore. What happens to the ship if the war ends? Yuna asked quietly. I have been thinking about that, Do-Yun said. The war between humans and Velothi is not the only conflict in this part of space. There are other wars, other displaced people, other children who need help. We could go wherever we are needed. A permanent mobile sanctuary, Minho said. I like it. We would need to recruit more crew, Yuna said. More resources. More coordination with other organizations. Then that is what we do, Do-Hyun said. We did not start this mission because it was easy. We started it because it was necessary. That has not changed. Over the next few weeks, the peace talks progressed. Slowly, tentatively, but they progressed. Both sides were exhausted from war. Both sides had lost too much. The path to peace was not simple, but at least they were trying. Some refugees on the ship began preparing to return home. Others decided to stay in human space, having built new lives. And some volunteered to join the crew permanently, wanting to help others the way they had been helped. The ship's mission evolved. They began coordinating with other humanitarian organizations, sharing resources, sharing knowledge, building a network of mobile sanctuaries that could respond to crises anywhere.